This is HBR News number 454. Prostate cancer screening improvements. Prince William opens Mayo Clinic, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everyone and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts Mike and Hannah, and we're going to be talking about the news of the week, giving it the Badger treatment, and we hope that you are laughing at all of this absurdity so that you are not consumed by it. So before we get started, I just wanted to say it looks like everything is working now. There was some issues, and I want to give a little bit of backstory because I want to explain myself, and it's a problem. So, yesterday, I was supposed to be doing a show. I'm sure that you guys were expecting one. I had it all set up, and there was this really bad thunderstorm while I was in the midst of learning some new interesting tools. I'm trying to stream for YouTube Shorts, which is super contradictory because they're supposed to be short, and yet we're gonna try and put up Badger length streams on there, but okay. But I mean, I was figuring it out. I was getting kind of excited about it, and then there was this bad downpour outside, and I was just kind of watching, dealing with it. But what ended up happening was a massive lightning bolt struck very, very close. I mean, frighteningly close to my house, and when it did, the power was just off. And I could tell because you know how you normally count the seconds between when you see a flash and when you hear the thunder. This was simultaneously. It was boom, and all the whole block was out for a 24 hours, and it was in the middle of me setting things up, and so my OBS was bugging on me when I got power back, which was basically at about an hour and a half ago. So I was scrambling to get this all ready. Maybe 2 hours ago. So anyway, I'm here. We're okay. Everybody's okay here. How are you? We're going to be talking about some news stories. So I just wanted to...
You should all come to Britain, man. The weather's brilliant here. I know it looks grey, but it never shatters the infrastructure. It never gets so cold that it kills you. It never gets so hot that it kills you. It never gets so windy that it kills you. It never gets so lightning-y that it takes out the infrastructure.
Lightning can kill you too.
That can kill you. Every American should come to Britain, and we should just send the Muslims to fucking America. See what happens. Let them operate the infrastructure without the help of the white man. We'll see what happens. We can handle 350 million people over here. What's the worst that could happen? Let's just come to Europe.
Exactly.
That's where we all belong anyway.
Yes. So I've been there a couple times. I like it overall, although I think every time I go it's a little different. I think it's going to be really different this time. But there you go. Recommendation from the Brit himself. Come to England. Oh, speaking of which, maybe I got a sound. I got a sound for that.
Fish, chips, cup of tea, bad food, worse weather, Mary fucking Poppins, London.
Yeah, I don't think that we can make fun of the weather there very much because it's pretty bland in comparison.
I mean,
I'm sitting here in a tornado watch right now.
What's the place that's perfect? What's a place with perfect weather?
It's right here. I keep.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, the perfect weather is the middle ground, and unfortunately, that's in a grey, rainy place like Britain. We complain about the weather all the time, and that's just
So if we moved along the longitudinal path, if we wanted to, we could draw a line around the Earth that is, at the same level where Britain is.
Yeah.
Then you can. Yeah, go ahead.
Funnily enough, London is at the exact same line of latitude as Calgary. And Calgary, as you may know, is horribly snowy.
Yeah.
Especially in winter. Whereas
it's
London
cold
is...
there even when it's not winter.
Exactly. And London is balmy, but I mean balmy, even in the winter days. And it's something to do with with Atlantic winds or something. Is something only a meteorologist can explain, which would explain why Europe developed such such a world-faring civilization before so many other continents did, because we have the kind of weather that, like I said, doesn't kill people. We could go ahead
no
developing a civilization that doesn't kill
Weather
people
here-
because it ever gets too hot or too cold or too windy.
Yeah, it's not the weather that
The
kills
US
people.
Employs a lot of men, not just to describe the weather and to follow and track the weather, because there are men and women that do that, but every time the weather tears something apart or creates dangerous conditions, guess who steps up to make sure everybody's okay and has everything they need?
Yeah.
You can't be talking about men, can you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know, Calgary does have Chinooks. So you could be in the middle of winter and there'll be like a period of time where it's really nice. Like almost like
what's
fall
funny about
weather.
that? It
Yeah.
sounds like something mean that you would call somebody if you were mad at them, but it describes something nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, shut the hell up, you Chinook. But you, nice weather moment in the middle of bad weather.
Well, okay, so we should get into the new show. So, what are we covering on today's news show? Well, we're going to be talking about some things that are promising, which is a nice change of pace after something that's a little dark. But we got there are some new advancements regarding prostate cancer. There is Prince William is opening up a male self-deletion shelter or service, which is kind of amazing. I mean, at least it sounds like it, but we'll get into the story and more. I kind of swapped one thing out, guys. I'm sorry I did, but like one of the stories is not the story because I found something hilarious and I want to cover it. So at least to me, it's funny. I have a bit of a trolly sense of humor sometimes. So,
Best kind.
yeah. So, if you want to, I think it's going to be a good time. And for the after show, we're going to be trying something different. This is something that Allison's been asking me to do. And she was going to wait until, we did a show together yesterday to do this. But, again, everything went kaput because Thor got mad or something and basically hit. I think it was literally the house next door was struck by lightning and it just took out the transformer. I mean, it was I've never seen lightning that close before. I mean, maybe you guys have stories of encounters with lightning, but I've never been that.
Brilliant.
You guys don't get lightning?
Occasionally, but it doesn't take shit out. Everything's just gray here,
Yeah. Whenever I hear people describe London that way, I think of Eleanor Rigby, the music video.
Do you know, apparently Britain has more tornadoes than any other country, but that's just it's only statistical because the vast majority of the tornadoes we have are micro tornadoes. I've seen one once.
Really?
It's where the leaves get blown around in a 10-foot radius. And that technically counts as a tornado whenever the wind goes
That's
around.
a dust devil.
Yeah, you call them dust devils. Apparently, some meteorologists call them tornadoes because they're technically tornadoes.
It sounds like
There's little tornadoes.
Hero. Oh.
It's like the Tasmanian devil size tornado, right?
Yeah, but by comparison, the day my husband and I got married, the gas station that my brother and his wife used as their landmark to turn, down the road they needed to go down to get home. It was there for them to get gas at on the way to the wedding. It was gone on the way back, and there wasn't even there was nothing. You couldn't see anything. You had to get close to where it had been to see that the foundation was still there. No pumps, no building, no nothing, not one brick. That's an F5. And
yeah,
there are bigger tornadoes.
Oh, for sure. I mean, go to Oklahoma or Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah, big tornadoes there. But where basically if it's flat, that's where you're gonna see them most likely. Anyway, So, what was I saying? I was talking about what we're gonna be. Yeah. So this is what we're gonna be talking about in the after show. What we're gonna do is, I have a recording of a vertical video running right now. I was trying to stream it alongside the horizontal, but it was giving me some trouble. So I'm ditching that for now until I get a better sense of how it works. But I'm recording a vertical video, and what I'm gonna do is of this very stream. And what I'm gonna do, God willing, is I'm going to upload this video after it's done recording into Riverside, and we're going to find some, clips that we can make into short viral videos to put on YouTube, and I want you to help me to sort of narrow it down to 3 good clips. So, first of all, I guess that means that Hannah and Mike should be on their A game, so that they could be among those chosen. But also, yeah, it could be fun for us to go through it. We're going to do that for about an hour in the Patreon show, so it should be a good time. If you want to join us on that, you have to become a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, where you'll be able to enjoy all of the additional content, like our after shows and our, there's drafts that people make of videos before they go up. You can watch them there first. There's lots of community things going on. So, yeah, please consider doing that. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we've been yeeted from the internet, please go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com. That's where all of our content lives. All right, so with that out of the way, let us get into the stories. So first, we got some, typical woman moment shenanigans. So Madison Bergman, a 24-year-old Wisconsin elementary school teacher, was arrested after an alleged sexual assault of a student. Part of the allegations allege Berman made out with a 5th grade student. Berman was arrested on 1 count of first-degree child sexual assault. The child's father had printed text messages between Berman and the student where she allegedly told the child that she liked when the victim touched her and that she enjoyed, quote, making out, end quote, with them. The school where Berman taught said in a statement that, quote, learning about a school staff member and alleged inappropriate conduct that breaches trust is deeply troubling for all of us, end quote. Bergman is set to be married to her fiance this July. Is he still marrying her? What the? The child's mother initially overheard the student and Bergman talking on the phone before she informed the child's father, according to KARE 11. I guess that's a channel. During her interview with police, she told authorities that the victim's mother allegedly gave her the student's phone number after the family invited her to Afton Alps, a skiing resort, over winter break. Police officers searched Bergman's belongings and found handwritten notes between herself and the student. Bergman was suspended after her arrest and is not permitted on school district property and cannot attend any school events.
I hope you're taking notes, folks, and I don't mean that rhetorically. We don't take any pleasure in reporting these kinds of stories. I mean, far from it. It's increasingly infuriating how often it happens. It's increasingly difficult trying to think of anything else to say about it, given how much these stories all seem to blur into each other, and it's increasingly numbing and depressing to know that the legacy media is not reporting on any of it, except maybe I'm halfway through a broadsheet newspaper. It's somewhere in between the financial section and the TV guide. Needless to say, you're not going to hear about it on the aforementioned TV anywhere in the schedule, despite the hundreds of available channels. So when I say take notes, I mean it. Write this shit down every time it happens. The links are all available in the show notes. So save these articles, archive these reports, line them all up in an Excel spreadsheet ready to display in all its grisly detail whenever someone tries to tell you that rape culture is a system by which men and boys oppress women and girls. I know you never hear about a male teacher doing this to female students. If you did, you would hear about it on TV. They wouldn't shut up about it for weeks on end of devoted news cycles. Just
I
like
mean,
it.
I can tell you what happens when a male teacher does that, because that happened at my school, and he went to jail, and then when he got out of jail, he was run out of the community by basically a harassment campaign by the members of the community, who decided that he couldn't possibly be rehabilitated. And the girl was like 16 or 17. She was older than me. But yeah, the community does not tolerate that, right? Now, my female gym teacher did the same thing, but with a boy, and she got to go teach at another school. There was no legal inquiry at all. The school did not report it to the police. The parents did not report it to the police. That's the thing I don't understand. The parents not reporting it to the police. Because you can bet if somebody harmed one of my kids that way, the only thing that would keep me safe would be reporting it to the police. Because otherwise I'd become, a vigilante. And you'd end up with, listening to HBR talk from jail. That's basically like, and the way that it gets reported on is infuriating. There is no such thing, no such thing as making out with a 5th grader for an adult, right? That's molestation. She molested a child of the age of like 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there, depending on when the kid started school. And I know it's hard for people to listen to that. It's hard for people to wrap their minds around that this person in a position of responsibility for children did that and used the word making out. But research shows that's not entirely unusual, right? This is, I can't think of the book, and I have it, and I stuck it somewhere. But if you should follow at gynocentrism.com on Twitter.
Peter Wright.
Peter Wright. And he's actually put this up on his Twitter as well, and I put it in our chat. This is from a survey on motives for sexual aggression, where they asked women a series of questions ranging from no aggression to very aggressive, regarding their behavior and everything. 29.3% of them admitted that they had sex with a boy while he was a minor and they were not. 29.3 is just 0.7% below 30. 30 is 3 in 10, which is just barely below 1 in 3, barely below a third of women. A third of women admitted to sexually exploiting underage boys during their own adulthood. That's how common the behavior is.
Yep.
We hear from women, that they're afraid to be alone with men, that men are dangerous, that men molest children, that men do this and men do that. But a third of women, not 1 in 10, like you hear reported on men being potentially sexually aggressive, right? You hear, well, if 1 in 10 M&Ms was dangerous, you wouldn't eat out of the bowl. 1 in 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the only thing on the list. There's a bunch of other things on the list. But that's taking advantage of children, right? You have numbers for taking advantage of insubordinates. That's also, if I remember right, or of subordinates. I'd be insubordinate in that situation. Yeah, taking advantage of a position of power and authority, 26.5%. So that's 1 in 4. Taking advantage of a compromising position, meaning the individual is easily blackmailed using something in their life. right? That's 1 in 3. 30%, 3 in 10. Threatening physical force, 27.8%. So between 1 in 4 and 3 in 10, by using physical force, that's 1 in 5. We hear that 1 in 5 women are raped during their lifetime. 1 in 5 women use physical force to override being told no by a male sex partner. And then there's, using threatening self-harm, using a man's compassion for women against him, 7.4%, and by threatening him with a weapon.
Yeah.
So women with guns, women with knives, that chick with the machete, 8.9%. So we're talking a huge number of women. A lot of these probably overlap because using a weapon is using physical force. And if you look at physical force and threatening most people threaten physical force before they use physical force. But these are one of the ones that's really disturbing is we get taught in school, from university on, and probably now for years from high school on, that if we're drunk and we have sex, the guy we had sex with is a rapist because we couldn't consent, right? But 62.4% of women admitted that they had sex with a guy while he was drunk or stoned. And 36.5% admitted that they got him drunk or stoned in order to get sex from him, that he would not have agreed to. So actually a third of women admitted to using an intoxicant to get around a guy's refusal. And more than half, almost 2/3, admitted to not caring that he was too intoxicated to consent. Then there's the abusive things. They use sex to gain control or power over a partner, to retaliate against their partner, to express anger at their partner, to gain something from a person in power. 24.8%. So a quarter of women have used sex to gain something from a person in power. You get how messed up that is. Women consider it to be sexual exploitation if a person in power has sex with them, but women exploit sex and admit to exploiting sex to gain something from a person in power. And 42.6% of women used cheating, betrayal, to end another relationship. 46.1% to hurt someone else. They've had sex with someone to hurt someone else. So there's actually a lot of guys out there who have been fucked by a chick whose only goal in fucking them, they didn't care about the guy, they didn't care about the connection they were making, they didn't care about how the guy felt about them or whether he got attached or anything like that. They were just using him to hurt another guy. But
Yep.
they look at men and they say men are dangerous and men are predatory and men don't care about women and men are hurtful and harmful. Men are exploitative and all that. And then we get this when we ask women. This is college age women. So that's before they've had a chance to be educators and workers in juvie, where 95% of the youth reporting sexual misconduct by staff report female perpetrators.
Yeah.
And this is only from... Go on.
We have to start not just keeping track when individual women do this. Like that's one thing. There are lists already. There are studies on this already. We have to start actually contacting and criticizing news outlets for writing about this as though it was mutual. There's no such thing as a mutual sexual relationship with a child. That is molestation, that is rape, that is predatory behavior. The adult in that situation did something wrong.
Yep.
Right? The adult in that situation did something abusive and harmful and dangerous to the child. Children, particularly boys, who come out of this situation are up to 14 times more likely to be suicidal in their life. This is life-threatening, right? They're up to 44 times more likely to abuse substances that can be damaging to their health. So this is definitely health-threatening, even when the child survives it. This is, and it even increases children's likelihood when they get older of having sexual dysfunction, having difficulty having their own relationships. So it's mental health damaging as well. And then on top of all of that, even if people didn't give a rat's ass about the kids that this is being done to, the boys that this is being done to, it also increases their likelihood of becoming sexual assailants when they get older, becoming criminals when they get older. So this is actually, if you only have mercenary reasons for caring about this, we have to hold women accountable when they engage in this behavior, because women who do this create future rapists.
Yes,
not every boy this happens to is going to grow up to be a rapist. Not every boy this happens to is going to grow up to have trouble in his relationship. Not every boy this happens to is going to commit suicide or use drugs and alcohol to damage himself or have any of the other problems that, any specific of the other problems that arise out of this. But all of them are in danger of it. And every teacher could be the trigger. Every nurse could be the trigger. Every guard at a prison or librarian or teacher at a prison that works with boys could be the trigger. Women have to be 100% accountable when they do this.
Yeah, and these stats Hannah is referring to are from, I think, 20 or 30 years ago. We covered it in a Thursday show.
Yeah, it's not new information. We already have known this for decades.
Yeah, and it could only possibly have gotten worse in the last few decades since the feminism problem has got even worse. But you'll never hear the legacy media talking about it, even though the statistics are right there. You'd think they would be displaying this as the emergency that it is, but they're only interested in talking about, you know, a certain top G whenever he's arrested again for shit he's been spuriously accused of. Sooner or later, it will become a nationwide story when the only male teacher who's left allowed to do this will do what countless female teachers have been doing for donkey's years with impunity. And when it happens, you will never hear the end of it as definitive proof that women are in constant danger from the thrall of powerful men. Like that thing that happened in Australia, which we'll be covering in the second story.
Oh,
A group of boys made a list of the girls in their school, ranking them from wife material all the way down to unrapeable material, and this has become an international scandal. Students writing things down, but using unacceptable language. No one raped anyone. No one sexually assaulted anyone or even touched anyone up. They just put a pen to paper, or I guess they put 6 zeros to 6 Fs in a particular pattern that apparently required them all to be not just suspended but ostracized from society.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in that very same school, there are probably adult women sexually abusing boys. Probably the very same boys who are acting out by writing things down, interpreting such things in some skewed way or another.
Yeah.
Think of that. For all we know, one or more of the boys who have committed the irredeemable crime of writing the word unrapeable may very well have been raped. But that's not the scandal. The raping of those boys is not the scandal. The adults doing the raping are getting away scot-free, while their rape victims are front page news because of the dark pictures they drew about their ordeal. Just like the perverts writing children's books depicting cartoon pictures of gay sex acts are somehow not the scandal. The scandal is when parents go to a school board meeting and show those books to a room full of adults.
Right.
And the school board people say, you can't read this out to a room full of adults. That's inappropriate. And then they go, you're showing this shit to children. What the fuck? And it's not much of a stretch to insinuate that these things are connected. Feminists are in charge of the education system now. They have been for quite some time. And they can get away with anything. Not only are they raping the students, they're basically writing diaries about it.
Yep. Isn't it
novels,
weird?
No less.
Yeah. Isn't it weird? Like having like notes that you send. Like, how old are you? Like 13? Like what?
And they're not just writing notes; they're stacking the bookshelves in the school library with these notes, with these gratuitous journals of my big fat wacky adventures in child rape. Like how many red flags do you need? How big do these red flags have to be? How fucking red do they have to be? We're already looking at flags the size of the Amazon rainforest, saturated with the bright crimson blood of several generations of children. And the only people being held accountable for anything are the fucking victims. So I'm sorry that we cover so many of these stories. I know it's macabre. I know it's almost tiresome at this point, but we do it so that you can show this shit to the sleepwalking normies who would otherwise believe everything they hear on the TV and only what they hear on the TV. Because until the zombie masses wake up to what's really going on, it's only going to get worse. If you can even imagine how it could get any worse. I guess the teachers could just rape the boys in front of the whole class during class sessions, and those boys, as a result, will only get arrested for raping the teachers. And now that I've sounded that out, I have to wonder.
How long is it going to be before a teacher claims to be under the victim's thrall?
Yeah,
exactly. Every time I try and imagine the horrors of the future, they turn out to be the horrors of the present that have been long since underway, as it is. So watch this space for when that stuff finally gets reported. Probably a generation from now, when that damage is already done and no one cares.
Yeah, it's a common thing among pedophiles to blame the victim. The victim wanted it. The victim approached a pedophile and so on. That's already a thing. They already do that. And the female ones are worse about it because they expect to be believed. Whereas like the male ones, especially if they are talking about girls, like that, they know that that's not going to make a difference. They know that when they say that, it's not going to get them out of trouble. At best, they'll be more viewed as having the sickness they have, and they expect maybe some lenience out of it.
Yeah.
But all
right.
The lenience should not be forthcoming regardless, and unfortunately, it is for women. But the thing is, if you want to see less stories like this, if you want to see more stories about women being held accountable under the law, one of the things that you can do to move the Overton window in such a way that will facilitate those changes is when you see a news article about a teacher or some other woman in a position of responsibility that molested a child in her care, and you see the news writer discussing it as a sexual relationship and using terms like made out and stuff like that to describe what happened, contact the publication and ask them to issue a correction. The child was molested. The teacher is accused of rape. The teacher is accused of molestation, not making out, not having a sexual relationship. Remind news outlets, contact them using their contact us methods. They usually have something. Remind news outlets that they are talking about sexual predators, regardless of the sex of the predator, and sexual misconduct victims, sexual abuse victims, not participants, even when they're talking about boys.
Yeah.
The more they hear from you, the more inconvenient it's going to be for them to gloss this shit over.
And in the meantime, don't send your kids to school if you can help it. There's really no justifying it anymore. And don't trust anything you hear on the TV. You need to go open source, always and from now on. There's no excuse not to. The internet is not to blame. Your smartphone is not to blame. On the contrary, these things are the much-needed escape from the rapidly corrupted institutions in whom we used to put our trust, in whom previous generations used to put their trust. Maybe they weren't always this corrupt, but they have become this corrupt because they're desperately clinging to their once hegemonic power. They can only do it with your consent, people. So you need to deny them that consent while you're still legally allowed to. We don't have much time left. Public service announcement concludes.
All right. So I got a couple of super chows and Rumble rants. I am looking at the Rumble chat. And then I think I might even have a super chat, but I'll check it out in a second. So let us know what you guys think. Send us a super chow by going to feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send it through. Or you can do it on Rumble. So first, I got one for Maintaining Frame. This was yesterday. It came through. Maintaining Frame 94. If I wasn't laughing, I'd be crying. Who gives us $5 and says, coffee sip, women, ha ha ha. I think that's a request. So I'm going to play this little video clip.
Women.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then I got another one from Peptocopter, who gives us $20. Thank you, Peptocopter. And he says, I recall you saying in an episode a few months ago that you don't criticize men as much as you criticize women because the market for male criticism is already oversaturated. The problem I have with that statement is that most criticism of men that we already get fucking sucks. It doesn't matter how much criticism men get thrown at them if most of it is garbage. And since you guys already know that, it should give you all the more reason to actually do criticize men. Tell us what we're doing wrong and what we need to do to improve ourselves and our relationships, what men have learned from women throughout history, and what they can learn from them today. As much as it sucks to constantly get the sole blame for all of our problems, we do have some responsibility in them, so I would truly love to hear your thoughts on this if you haven't already dedicated an episode to it. If you do have one, then my bad.
Don't rape kids. I mean, just don't rape kids. This message seems to have been drilled into men for a long ass time, and it's got through to the vast majority of us, especially when we're in professional roles. And that's why men don't rape kids, especially in professional roles. Not just because it's wrong, but because they will be found out when they do it and effectively and rightfully prosecuted for doing so.
Actually, one way or another,
we don't do this with women.
If other men don't protect them and their ability to rehabilitate, other men will kill them for it. Men are so protective of children that even men who commit violent crimes in other areas of criminal violence, even men who rob banks with guns and shoot the guards and everything, they'll kill pedophiles if they get the chance.
They'll kill a man if he's accused of pedophilia. They don't even care if he's guilty or not. As soon as he's accused, they'll go. Brr. But if a woman's actually guilty of pedophilia, they'll be just like, nice.
Yeah. So if you want my criticism of men in this matter, here's my criticism. All right, y'all put up with too much. You tolerate way too much shit from women. Right? It's one thing. I'm not going to say it's all right, but it's one thing for you to tolerate weakness. It's one thing for you to tolerate weakness and denial of that weakness, where women demand to be given credit for things that they are not doing, and to be paid for things that they are not completing or not doing on the same level of men, and to take jobs that are traditionally male because men do them better. Whether men can do them better or not is not relevant if men just do them better. And until women start stepping up, right? All of that, that's its own thing, right? But you guys tolerate so much boundary issues from women. And I know a lot of it's because you're raised that way. A lot of it, and when I say this, I'm excluding MGTOW because you guys learned, right? But when women lie about you, even little lies, even when they say they're afraid when they're not, and a woman who gets in your face to tell you she's afraid of you is not fucking scared. All right, she's angry, she's entitled, she's anything but scared. So when women lie and they say they're scared of you when they're not, don't tolerate that. When women treat you like a sex object and then complain when you reciprocate, don't put up with that. When women act like they have a right to defend their personal boundaries, but you don't have a right to defend yours, don't put up with that. When women act like you're responsible for your side of a sex act, but they're not responsible for their side because they're female, don't put up with that. All right? Don't simp.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Don't let a girl make you her bitch.
If they say they're scared of you and then you walk away and they pull a shocked Pikachu face because you walked away when they said they were scared of you, they were lying all along. They weren't scared of you. They were fucking abusing you.
So, I was just going to say, we do give a lot of advice. We try to, I think one of the main purposes of this show is to help men understand, give them a tool set to deal with the modern world. How to, stay out of trouble and all that. If you can find, we do give advice. I think that the main criticism that I usually bring up is don't be a simp. And I think there's a way to discern whether or not someone is worthy of your sacrifice, and you have to see it as that, so that you have some sense of self-worth, and this is a big issue. But I mean, I maybe Peptocopter, maybe you don't watch a lot of our content. I'm not angry about that, but I think that criticism alone for men is unnecessary because that's all you see, but maybe advice or some support or some tools to help men is actually a lot better. So that's what I would say. And I would say that when we talk about women that are behaving badly, we would also be giving a criticism sandwich, where you have something negative to say and then you have something offer them a way to get out, and then you sort of sandwich it with another little jab, because they need to be humbled a little bit, So that's what I think. But anyway, thank you for the super chow. Meredith G gives us $5 and says, HBR News 454, it is my observation that if a female perpetrator of a male child is prosecuted, it is usually an enraged mother who sometimes gets authorities to press charges because moms aren't always able to get the authorities to do anything. That is possible.
There is a lot of moms that don't know what to do. They don't know who to contact. They don't know how to go over the heads of the local police department. If you're in the United States and somebody harms your kid in violation of the law, and the cops are like, well, we don't really need to do anything, and you can tell it's because the child is a boy, you go to your state prosecuting attorney's office and you contact them and tell them that your local police department is discriminating against a victim of a crime because he's underage and male.
Yeah.
Like you just start contacting the authorities, the state authorities.
All right. Well, thank you for the super chat, or super chow, Meredith. Now I got Rumble Rants, so I got 2 of them. OIC gave us 2 Rumble Rants, both for $1. Thank you. And he says, American Dust Devil or British Dust Devil. One is something you probably want to avoid. The other is something cute and fun to play with. And then he gives the other one says, women go for anyone and anything except grown adult men. They go for the bears, the dogs, and the children too. Ooh.
Yup.
You are aware of the dog pill. All right. And then we got, I know. Then we got the super chats. So we're going to look at those really quick. I got 3 of those. Albatross gives us $5. Thank you, Albatross. It says, there's that meme of first world privileged women feeling safer with a bear in the woods than that with a man. I feel sympathy for the bears. Yeah, we've covered that at length. I don't want to go over that
I will
again.
say one thing about it. All right. It is not that these women are afraid. These women are women who get off on verbally abusing men, and they are pushing the envelope as far as they can.
Yeah.
That's what this is. This has absolutely nothing to do with fear or violence or any of that. It is their way of browbeating ordinary men using allegations that there's no difference between you and the minority of men who are fucked up enough to engage in violent crimes, and not all of those men, the minority among those men who target women instead of other men.
Yeah. All right, so then I got another one from Zeranx for $5, and he says, why are you people discussing this when we have the bear issue ongoing? Priorities, people, priorities. Lol, just kidding. And he's got, like, I think it's clapping. Okay. Thank you for that, Zeranx. And then Albert Nada Retro gives us $5 Canadian and says, Hannah, please explain my ketchup women most affected catchphrase to Brian. Heinz is a tool of the patriarchy, LOL.
Oh, jeez. So I highlighted the pork barrel spending of the United States federal government not too long ago in an episode, and how men are being taxed for some of the most ridiculous things because women have convinced society that it's okay to steal money from men to have the government pay for things just because people want them, not because it's some kind of emergency, not because men agreed to this, or anything like that. And one of the examples I gave is years ago, the pork report, when it came out, included a study that the United States federal government funded to find out how ketchup ran down a table, when you tilted the table, which brands ran faster and which brands ran slower.
God.
So
I remember that.
Which ketchup was the thickest ketchup.
Yeah.
Paid for by money confiscated out of the paychecks of men who do jobs that can kill them. So there are men who risk their lives to pay for a study on how fast ketchup runs down a tilted table.
I remember those commercials. I remember those commercials. All right, well, you learn something new every day. Thank you for all of the messages. We got to get into the second story. It's only been about an hour. So let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments section. And with that out of the way, let me just get to the top here. I'm going to share this with you guys. I had to do an archive link because they make you pay for these things, So here we go. All right. So 4 boys from an exclusive private school in Melbourne's east have been suspended after rating their female classmates using disparaging language to rate their appearances. Oh no, heavens. And let me display the screen. I didn't do that, so my bad. Police are being notified after the year 11 students, that would make them juniors, I think, from Yarra Valley Grammar School in Ringwood shared a spreadsheet of photos of their female classmates to messaging app Discord and ranked them in categories. The girls were ranked from top to bottom as wifeys, cuties, mid, object, get out, and then finally unrapeable. Oh no, the horror. The school became aware of this post last Wednesday, and by Friday, the students had been suspended pending further investigation. The parents of the girls pictured in the post were notified by the school. Yarra Valley Grammar Principal Dr. Mark Mary has described the post as disgraceful. Respect for each other is in the DNA of this school, and so this was a shock not only to us, but it was a shock to the year level and the boys in the year level that see this as way, way out of line, he said. Mary was particularly offended by the last category on the spreadsheet, which referred to girls as unrapeable. As a father, I find it absolutely outrageous, disgraceful, offensive. This is literally Carl, going, anyway. As a principal, I need to make some decisions about what we do about all of this, he said. My first impulse and concern is about the well-being of the girls concerned. I want to make sure they feel assured and supported by the school. The school will
girls, somebody out there someday
will actually want to rape
totally
you.
Rape
we'll find you rapeable. Stay in Australia for a while, maybe. But anyway, the school will notify police about the use of the word unrapeable in case there has been any criminality involved. We are going to be consulting the police because the language used could be inferred as a threat. This is like the same. Okay, never mind. I gotta finish this. This is it. I wouldn't even.
Terrible.
All right. I'm having a moment. So, though I don't think it was, but we need to get further advice on that. I'm hoping it was an appalling lapse in judgment, Mary said. There are 185 students in year 11 at the prestigious co-ed school in Ringwood, which costs about $30,000 a year per student. The school regularly teaches respectful relationship classes, holding a number of seminars for students throughout the school year. Mary said the school would work harder on teaching boys how to behave, particularly within the current environment where violence against women has been increasing at an alarming rate. Oh, really? We are well aware of the broader issues in relation to respecting women. We need to really do our best to ensure that young men understand their responsibilities and their boundaries of how they should behave, he said.
They say that 185 students, it's a big class, right?
Yeah.
My class was about that size, and my school was considered a small school where I came from. It's not a big school.
Jess Phillips has entered the chat.
We're there's three divisions, sports divisions. There's the tiny sports division. There's the medium sports division, which is like the biggest, because in my area there were a lot of farming communities and smaller schools, and then there's the one that is for schools in urban areas where one class might have 1,000 students in it, more students than were in my whole school. My husband came from a bigger community like that, and you could put at least 3 of the classes at my school together and not equal his senior class. So that's not that big. I suppose and maybe it's big in Australia. Their population is maybe smaller, but they act like this is something that is some sort of community-wide issue. A bunch of boys made a joke, and they made a joke based on an existing meme that everybody knows was a mischaracterization of people who are sexually predatory. But normal guys who aren't violent, guys who aren't sexually predatory, don't really have a way of understanding guys who are, because guys who are are broken. Right? They've had something happen in their lives, or they're missing something in their development. They've not learned something important growing up, or they've learned something wrong growing up that makes them behave in a way that a normal person just wouldn't understand. And so when normal people try to figure out sexual predators, they come to weird conclusions like they must be desperate and things like that, rather than considering that it's something so broken that you're not gonna understand it. And so they make memes like that, not unrapeable. Even a desperate person wouldn't touch this individual. The truth is, these girls were insulted because they were called ugly, untouchable, not interesting, not wanted. And boys are accustomed to that. That's what incels hear all the time. And women and girls can be particularly rude and obnoxious and cruel when rejecting somebody who is of the incel caste. And then it's basically a caste all over the world. But when that behavior targets a female, all the girls get outraged. How dare you? How dare you say we're unrapeable? How dare you say we're ugly? How dare you say you don't want us? How dare you not have the predatory attitude that we have attributed to you? Right? How dare you not worship us? And that's what this is about. And of course, women are offended. All these women have is the perception of how you look at them and how you want them. If they don't have that, they've got nothing.
True. Mike, do you have anything? Or I know you already talked about it in the last story.
I did. I already addressed this because you sprung this second story on us at the last minute, and I added that bit to the first story because I didn't know we were going to address it in the second story. So
this is the one that I changed.
I already addressed it.
Oh, well, then it's been addressed. Yeah, it's cool. Let us know what you guys think about this in the comments.
Quickly.
I think that it's funny, and that's my favorite thing about this, is that it's funny. So let us know what you guys think about this in the comments, and we're going to move on to the next story. So, according to Cancer Research UK, there's a lot of, not American stories here. I don't know if you guys noticed. According to Cancer Research UK, there currently exists no screening program for prostate cancer. This may be a shock to some, as the disease claims thousands of men each year. Previous testing methods, ones based on prostate-specific antigen and biopsies testing, only prevented between 8 and 20% of deaths. But experts claim that a €42 million project called Transform will hopefully increase this figure to 40%. The first trials of Transform will begin this year and will include prostate-specific antigen blood testing, genetic testing, and a quicker version of the MRI scan. These will be compared against the National Health Service's current method to see which ones perform better. The second stage, which will include 300,000 men, will use the best method found from stage 1. The Director of Research at Prostate Cancer UK, Dr. Matthew Hobbs, states, quote, "We know that earlier diagnosis saves lives, but previous trials haven't been able to prove that enough men would be saved using PSA's tests alone. While they did show that these old screening methods cause significant unnecessary harm to men, we must now prove that there are better ways to find aggressive prostate cancer that will save even more lives while causing less harm," end quote. Dr. Hobbs hopes the research being done in the UK, if successful, could be applied to the science of early prostate cancer detection globally.
I have tried to explain to my fellow Brits, the ones who have been conditioned by their government-regulated media to worship their government-regulated healthcare system, that maybe, just maybe, there are perceivable options beyond the phenomenon of, quote, socialized healthcare, unquote. They even agree to call it that, socialized healthcare, and it doesn't occur to them that it's in any way connected to the phenomenon of socialism. a primordial euphemism for communism as it is. Communism itself being a primordial euphemism for oikophobia in theory and misandry in practice. It's common for normies in Britain to hate Americans and to hate the systems that have elevated America to the superpower it has become. In many such conversations, they like to repeat the hateful stereotypes they've heard about red states and how they're so racist, so sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic. You've probably got the soundbite there, but you can't pick it out in time. So
gosh, yeah, I don't know if I have it.
It's fine. I did it myself.
Okay, yeah.
And I tried to tell them, you know,
the racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
Yeah, and I try to tell them, you know, those are mostly stereotypes, hateful ones at that. People in the rural parts of red states are actually, I mean, they're not just polite, they're positively friendly in ways the British mind cannot comprehend. The Americans you really want to watch out for are the communists, the ones in blue states and the cities that they hegemonically control, the ones brainwashed by their colleges, their universities, and into this single-minded oikophobia. Not least because they're the ones importing their brand of Marxism to the rest of the world. That's why the death of a criminal in Minneapolis resulted in widespread riots across our own country, even during the height of lockdown, while our own media brushed it off as peaceful protests, while our own populace justified it by saying, yeah, but it's entirely necessary to protest the fentanyl death of a criminal on another continent, imminent threat of apparent death be damned. People like to act as though they hate Americans, but when communist America says jump, they go how high? And when I try and point this out, when I say, you know, rural patriotic Americans are nowhere near as bad as urban socialist Americans, my normie countrymen go, well, yeah, but them Americans, right? They call us socialists just because we have a national health service. And I'm like, yes, it's socialized healthcare. This is literally what it's called on account of what it is. Never mind that you're trying to brush off the very existence of socialism by claiming that someone else calls something socialist when it's not. You simultaneously admit that it is socialist when it is.
Absolutely.
You acknowledge that our healthcare system is socialist, and you worship it, no matter what it does, even while the whole system is turning cancer patients away because they're far too busy injecting everyone with a biochemical that causes cancer. Not that I'm referring to anything in particular. I would never.
There you go.
And as you may have noticed, this whole system we call socialism is just a euphemistic excuse to steal from those branded as strong and give to those branded as weak. And I say branded because that's all it is. The rich are branded as more influential than the poor, and that is at least arguable in the stupid part of the brain, but it extends to whatever else goes on in the stupid part of the brain. Majorities are branded as more influential than minorities, no matter how far the Overton window shifts, and men are branded as more influential than women. That's that goes on right in the center of the stupid part of the brain. The notion that women have influence over men is just unthinkable to the knuckle draggers who can only think of how big their knuckles are. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that a socialized healthcare system, influenced as it is by the collective stupid brain of the idiot masses, will make it a priority to pander to women at the expense of men, just like it panders to minorities at the expense of the majority. I call them the idiot masses, but I don't mean that in an entirely disparaging way. The idiot masses have compassion. Not just compassion for their own families, but for their fellow humans. That's how and why we were able to spread as humans from a small East African region to the entire globe. Because we don't just butt heads with each other on sight like goats or like so many other mammals. Our first instinct as humans is to help each other. Even men, yes. But this innate compassion we have is exploitable. Very much so. On a small scale, you can see this exploitation in individual duplicitous sociopaths who pretend to be in need only so they can take advantage of any good Samaritans they encounter. Whereas on a large scale, the duplicity is harder to ascertain, precisely because it takes non-human form. It takes the form of an ostensible eusocial machine that purports to exist above the wherewithal of mere individuals. But that's what makes it so sinister. It's the result of duplicitous sociopaths getting together to form that machine, and slowly but surely over time figuring out how to take advantage of the good Samaritan nature of the average human. And that's what are we talking about? Oh yeah, that's why no one gives a shit about prostate cancer. While millions of dribbling retards are wearing ribbons in support of curing breast cancer, despite making no effort to actually do anything about it, no one gives a shit about prostate cancer. That's not to say that gynocentrism is natural. It's just that we as a species do appear to be soft-wired to protect women at men's expense. And that soft wiring has been exploited and frankly clowned on by sinister sociopaths who have not faced nearly the resistance with which they should be faced. Sorry, I'm all tangent.
No, it's fine. No,
I've got stuff in my mind.
There was a lot of
no ribbon. I'm not wearing any ribbons.
How about no?
Here's the thing. I like everything Mike said was great, and I'm not gonna try to go back over that stuff again for the most part. But I will point this out. When it comes to female cancers versus male cancers and who engages in activism and who does what, right? Women will engage in behaviors that they will call activism that do absolutely nothing on the idea that it is raising awareness in the hopes, because they know that men will do this, that you will give your money to organizations that they think are helping women. And they don't have to see numbers, results from anywhere to justify their actions. And it'll be stupid stuff like, saying some mysterious thing, some cryptic thing on social media so that people will ask them what the post is about, so they can say, oh, it's for breast cancer awareness. I made you ask me what this post is about so I could make you aware of breast cancer, as if people are not aware from all of the pink that appears all over the country, in the United States at least, every October, right? That's people are highly aware of it. So doing something that accomplishes absolutely nothing directly, doing something that only has a chance of maybe getting more people to give money to organizations that you don't have proof are actually helping the situation. That, when women do it and when it's on women's behalf, that counts as activism, because you might be getting men to fund actual action on the matter. But what the NHS, no, what is it called in the UK? I don't think it's in the article. What the UK equivalent?
The National Health Service?
It is the
It's the
National Health Service.
NHS.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have an NHS. No, we have an NIH here, National Institutes of Health. They just do research. But what the NHS has said here is that a method that is direct action that might actually prevent up to 1 in 5 deaths isn't enough. It's not worth it. They're not going to fund it. But they might fund if it's 2 in 5 deaths, then it becomes worth funding. But if only 1 in 5 cancer patients' lives could be saved, well, those guys can just die. Like that's what that was. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And you get guilt tripped as a girl for not participating in these things, right? And
For sure.
You're not telling everybody what color your bra is this year.
It's time for the sisterhood, right?
That. Yeah. Fuck the sisterhood. Let's actually take action on cancers. Every cure that is created, every treatment that works on a cancer is another clue for how to treat all cancers.
Mm-hmm.
So ignoring any type of cancer is stupid.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I guess I'll say that I'm cautiously optimistic. I generally don't like publicly funded services, in particular health services. My faith in the medical industry has waned as of late. So but I mean, I am hopeful that that this will make some tracks. I don't know if like Philip Davies is involved or anything. Maybe he should be. He is like the only PM as far as I know. The PM or MP? MP. The only MP as far as I know that actually like advocates for men, like without shame. And maybe he's involved. I don't know. So I'm hoping for that. Anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I did get a super chow. So this one's from Richard Bier, who gives us $5 and says, what is the waiting time to get a screening appointment in the UK again? I remember hearing that they don't want you to schedule any appointments for longer than 48 hours ahead of time to make it look like they're providing better care by seeing all appointments in 48 hours or less. So you need to make an appointment to actually see the doctor.
It'll be years. It'll be years before you get a thing. And this is what I try and keep saying. Like, maybe it's preferable to go to a hospital and get them to save your life, and then you owe them 10 grand. Maybe that's better than paying the NHS 10 grand in taxes before you've ever even used their services. And then in the event that you do need their services, you wind up in a 2-year queue and you die without getting shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's my take on it, and it's based on more than just the financing and weight end of it, right? I got a preliminary diagnosis in 2019 of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome from my doctor, based on something called a Beighton score, which is when he looks at details about your historical flexibility and some health symptoms that indicate a connective tissue disorder. And I say he because my doctor's a man. I grew up with a female doctor, have a male doctor now. But yeah, in any case, so my insurance company doesn't like to take the doctor's word for it, and said, well, you got to go get a DNA test to see if you have any of the pathological genes for this disorder. But we won't pay for it unless the local genetic counselor thinks that you need the test, that you have a high enough Beighton score to merit the test. So 2 days after I was assaulted at work by a colleague, and I was really banged up, I had a concussion, couldn't do a lot of stuff I normally can do, actually had back pain from it and everything. I kept this appointment because, you know, just like any specialist, there's only one in like my quarter of Ohio, and it's not easy to reschedule. So I go in and I talk to the guy about the situation, and I explain, you know, I'm sorry I can't perform, but I can describe what is normal for me. Well, because I couldn't perform, the guy gave me a Beighton score of 0. And I didn't get the genetic test. And we were at a stalemate there. You know, doctor suggested that I go to across the state to some other counselor to see if I could get this test. And I was like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm not doing it. You know, well, what will we do if I have this disorder? And he tells me some things, and I start taking care of myself, basically. But in the meantime, I worked overtime. And I worked enough overtime to be able to afford to pay a company that sells medical genetic testing about $450 for a HIPAA-protected genetic screening. And instead of just getting one thing, one bit of information, I found out that actually I have 4 genetic markers for that disorder and 4 genetic markers for autism and a whole bunch of other very important health information that I never would have gotten if I went through the insurance company and did what I was told by the genetic counselor, who was basically angry with me for keeping the appointment. And took out his anger at my keeping the appointment by giving me a Beighton score of 0 despite my reported symptoms. And that basically is my story. You can control what healthcare is available to you by earning the money to pay for it and telling your insurance company to fuck off. And that's what I did. I went with a company called sequencing.com. Mm-hmm. They're not paying us for advertising or anything, but I like the form of information that I got from them. It has been very useful. It's expensive, but it was worth the extra work, and it was worth basically going through the situation, because if I'd have gone through that genetic testing through the system that we have, I'd have gotten information on one thing, and I got information on a shitload of things, and I got information on something that was more important than what I was looking for. So honestly, the whole idea of having someone else pay for your health care, it sounds nice. You know, it sounds like a great plan to be paying for insurance, or you know, whether it's directly or through the government, or having the government be your insurer, until all of a sudden you can't get the health care you need. And under a socialized system, the government can take your money, and the government can fund your healthcare system, and then the government can tell you, that because of the attitudes of the people involved in the government, you don't merit care because you're a man.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't merit care because I didn't follow the rules, right? But more often, much more often, when they tell somebody you don't merit care, it's because you're a man. So
Yeah.
I in terms of this, I'm very optimistic about the methods they're talking about. Not so optimistic about the system in which they're being.
Yeah, the problem is the bureaucracy, not necessarily. I'm sure that there are well-intentioned doctors doing this work. I mean, like, what's the real like benefit to working on prostate cancer other than saving lives? But I am concerned about the bureaucracy, so that's where my suspicions comes in. But let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. I'm gonna move on to the last story. Senior Sticks gives us $2 super chat and says, "Has the UK thought about getting USA immigrants? I can think of some to send, but I think it would be too cruel to send you all of the college kids."
Well, I mean, Donna did go.
Did she go, or did she
I
threaten
think
to go?
that she
A lot of
got
people threatened to leave the
there.
country. Yeah, she was married to Guy Ritchie for a while, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wherever she is,
We apologize.
whatever country she goes to, I'm sorry.
I think
Yeah.
Roseanne came here at some point because she thought there were too many crazies over there.
Well, there are too many crazies over here, but
Yeah, there are.
Famously, Stanley Kubrick came over here and filmed the last half of his amazing movies in the London area because he was so afraid of the American government, who may have eventually killed him, perhaps with a heart attack gun.
Maybe. All right. Well, anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Also, give us your thoughts on Stanley Kubrick. All right, so we're going to move on to the final story here. So I'm just going to go ahead and share this tab. So the Britain-based Men's Suicide Prevention Charity Center has opened a third location in Newcastle. The charity, named James's Place, was opened in 2018 after the founding couple, Claire Milford Haven and Nick Wentworth Stanley, those are very British names, aren't they, lost their son James to suicide in 2008. James ended up taking his own life at the age of 21 after struggling with anxiety and suicidal thoughts. Initially, James had sought help for his problems through his National Health Service provided general practitioner, but was eventually deferred to Accident and Emergency, Britain's version of the emergency room. There he waited for hours with no help as his issues were deemed low priority. He would eventually leave and later commit suicide. His parents would later go on to open the first James's Place in Liverpool in 2018 and then the second in London in 2022. On April 30th, the third James's Place was officially opened in Newcastle by Prince William, who also opened the first two centers. Prince William was quoted as saying the following, quote, "I'm obviously so proud of what all of you are doing, the whole team. What you've done together is incredible and it's so needed. So that's what's crucial. It's tackling the whole stigma of suicide straight on, so it's really important to support where we can and get men talking about all these things as well, which is crucial. So that's why I'm keen to help as much as I can," end quote. Do we like Prince William?
It's difficult to say because of the legacy of bloodthirsty tyrants who he's come from, but also that it's been whittled down to a less inbred.
Well, he seems to be. I mean, I don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but he doesn't seem to be embroiled in as much controversy as other.
Well, that's what we thought until the Middleton thing happened. What the fuck happened to Kate Middleton?
Okay.
I can't tell if any of this is good news. I feel like I sort of covered this in the previous story. What exactly is being done to prevent male suicide? As much as I'm in favor of monarchy over democracy, broadly speaking, it seems the monarchy we have in Britain is much like the church we have in Britain. It's feeble and anemic and has no influence. Certainly not compared with the all-powerful hegemony of the organized crime syndicate we call the government. The government is not interested in rewarding those who are strong on account of their strength. It's only interested in rewarding the weak because they are not strong. And that's not how you do it. That's not how you incentivize the strength of the individual, or indeed the collective, if that's what you're interested in. If indeed the collective is what we're supposed to even be enforcing. A big problem is that a lot of this narrative about reinforcing the strong is demonized under the umbrella of what is now called the red pill. Once upon a time, it was called the men's rights movement before the idiot masses were hoodwinked by the legacy media into rejecting that. They're all just contemporary iterations of the idea that the strong should be encouraged in their strength, and the weak should also be encouraged in their strength. That's how it worked for the longest of times. But like I said, this tried and tested approach has long since been usurped by the idea that the strong should make themselves weaker so as to lower themselves to the standards of the weak, even if it's across the lines of majority and minority, even if it's across the lines of male and female. See, we're out here trying to tell women that they should aspire to embrace the social strength they evidently have and manifest it as something just as strong as the physical strength that men have. And we're getting buried in the algorithm because the cunts in charge of the algorithm would rather men reduce themselves to the swamp of helplessness they have inflicted on women. And no, that doesn't mean men acknowledging their victimhood at the hands of the women. It means men becoming women somehow, because apparently that's the only path to victimhood. I have to wonder if this is what Prince William and his Cuck Foundation are leaning towards. It probably is. The royalty ought to be leading the discussion, but they're not. They're following the lead of the Blairite cult in charge of the government, in charge of the conservative government for whatever fucking reason. This is the wrong way around. William, my dude, you need to be circumventing the cuckoldry of the cucks who are cuckolding you. Yeah. Move away from your father and his pitiful displacement of his influence to the pointless whore he called his first wife. Arguably, both of you killed your wives, but that's all still up in the air. You need to ignore these rumors. You need to focus on the men in the glorious country you're supposed to be ruling one day. You know why they're killing themselves, these men? It's not because of toxic masculinity. You know what? It's far more likely that it's because of toxic femininity. Wait, what? That's the thing? Yes! Your mother was guilty of it! Huh! No wonder you're unable to comprehend it. The future's not looking good, folks. I'm looking forward to running the fuck away from this country and becoming the king of America. Vote for me.
Come to Virginia or West Virginia. West Virginia is actually even more based, although there's a lot more people on meth, but it's okay. They just...
when I say vote for me, by that I mean submit to me when I lead an army to kill you all as the king of America. It's been a long time coming. You've always needed a king, and it shall be me. This is, of course, a joke. Any customs agents who might be listening to this while I'm stood there at that desk in JFK, sweating my ass off. This is a joke, but it's based on the truth. which itself is based on a genuine desire for you to take your country back. You might want to elect someone who is not beholden to the uniparty that has made your life so unlivable. Where was I? Yeah, fuck you, William. Wise the fuck up. All of you, wise the fuck up. I don't know where else to go from here.
Okay. Anna?
So I'm looking at the organizational website, and they say what they do is provide quick access to short and focused one-on-one therapy that'll help men understand and recover from a suicidal crisis. So they're essentially triage, where the emergency room failed to triage this patient properly. And recognize that his crisis level was potentially fatal. This is an organization that will give men a place to contact somebody when they are in that level of crisis and actually receive immediate assistance and immediate therapy in the moment. So when I see the word therapy, I always have, my misgivings. The usual misgivings, are they going on toxic masculinity or all that? But in the moment, you are directly trying to talk someone down from being suicidal right now. And you don't worry about underlying causes in the moment. At that point, you're helping them accept that there can be a process by which they can become okay with living, and they may be able to address the causes that are underlying. You're not even talking about what those causes are in the moment, unless it's this isn't an insurmountable thing. You actually can come back from this. You actually can recover from this, and here's how. And creating that pathway and creating that understanding of the individual's value as a human being takes precedence in the moment. So I'm not as worried about an organization approaching it from, like, they're not going to be talking to somebody who's coming in going, I came here instead of taking this poison. Because I don't know very many people are going to be able to say, I came in here instead of putting a gun to my head in UK. Maybe people can still have them for hunting there, but I don't know how much hunting actually gets done there. But in any case, this looks like this looks like they're talking about actual intervention, immediate intervention. And it says men experience a clinically and statistically significant positive change following treatment with them. So it's possible that everything they say on there is true. If everything they say on there is true, then they are saving lives. What would really go a long way, though, to prevent suicide among men would be if, when a man is suicidal and he goes in, or depressed or facing stress or any kind of challenge, and he goes in to talk about the issues that are causing that, right, the problems that are causing that, you don't respond by telling him that the reason that he has those feelings and concerns for himself and is objecting to the suffering that he's experiencing and trying to find a way to overcome it is because he is selfish and overly masculine, and he's toxic because of it. Like that would help a lot. Maybe not telling men women have it worse, think of the women. Maybe not telling men shame on you for being male. Maybe not telling men it's your masculinity that's the problem, when actually he's upset about something that has been done to him, like his children being taken away, or being treated like an outcast at school if he's still a teenager, or in college, or at work if he's an adult, having financial difficulties and so on. All of the things that cause human beings to experience high levels of stress and even despair. Maybe address the underlying things that are happening to the individual and how to deal with those and how to overcome those, rather than and seek help for those, rather than turning around and saying, well, it's your toxic masculinity. You're clearly just being selfish. You're clearly just being overly stoic. You're clearly taking too much responsibility for yourself. How about no? How about accepting that maybe he has the same feelings about it as women, and maybe he's not just trying to get attention the way women often do when they threaten suicide.
Yeah.
But people like to say that woke came from the US. In fact, I think I may have expressed it in one or two of the stories tonight that woke is an American phenomenon. But woke from a gender perspective largely came from the UK because we got ahead of the game. It became a racial phenomenon when it was introduced to the US, because Americans are considerably more racist than the UK, and anyone who's ever observed American comedians as opposed to UK comedians can say that they like to do jokes about race, like, I'm from this race and this other race, and I've noticed all these things about these other races, and whenever we in the UK see these comedians, we're like, why the fuck does that matter? Why are you talking about this shit?
Yeah.
And very often they get booed, and I've seen this shit because I've been on the stand-up circuit in London, and it does seem that Americans like to focus on race a lot more than the UK does, and that's not me saying that Americans.
Well, most of the time, when they're focusing on race, they're focusing on racial differences in culture, and this is the thing. It's funny to us how we have difficulty fitting together and how we overcome it or don't, because we have that. Our entire history is a history of dramatically different cultures finding a way to fit together as best we can in a space where everybody is allowed. There's not a culture that's not allowed to enter because of their culture.
Yeah, I'm not having a go at Americans. Like I introduced this point, whatever you can call woke, it's drawn along the lines of gender and race, and it was first drawn along the lines of gender. Not that it was called gender when it was first drawn along those lines. It was drawn along the lines of biological sex. And it started in Britain, because Britain and the British Empire was it was the first empire that had the opportunity, because it was so it was so spoiled by the privileges given to it by the Industrial Revolution, and they call it privilege, but that is what happens if you're the first empire to discover industry. They were the first to bridge that gap into the world where you have the privileges of industry, and so they were the first to encounter this biological sex-based privilege. They were the first empire in which women first started going, well, we have washing machines now, we have plumbing now, we have electricity now, so now we can hold men accountable for all the shit that we can. And so they did, and so it really was the British Empire that first introduced gender-based wokeism. That wasn't called gender-based wokeism until John Money, but biological-based wokeism.
Sure.
It was absolutely the British Empire that introduced the first iteration of wokeism along the lines of biological sex. But then it was passed down to the Americans who added the racial element. But for whatever reason, Americans are very focused on race. And this is what I mean by my observation of American comics as opposed to British comics. Americans, for some reason, find it very funny to talk about race. Or they find it very relevant to talk about race in a way British people never have. And I assume that's something to do with the melting pot that was always supposed to be America. It's not just black versus white. It's black, white, brown, yellow, everything. Yeah. The philosophy of America was always supposed to be, we can have any race. We're a new country. Any race can come here, and you can be a thing. And that's why it became part of the public consciousness of America that there are many different races here. But for the same reason, that's why they became so much more conscious of race than any European country ever was. And that's, and that was supposed to be a good thing. And in theory, it could have been a good thing, but it was overtaken by the woke masses who took what I'm going to go ahead and call gynocentrism. They took the gynocentrism of the British Empire, and they translated it into minoritarianism, which I think is a word. I'm gonna go ahead and translate it.
You should copyright that and get a quarter every time somebody says it.
No, I think it was the Lugtoceters that came up with it. It's a good word. It's almost the same word as oikophobia. Minoritarianism, and
sort of going the other way.
And Americans took it on board, and they layered it like a layer cake on top of misandry, and it became the layer cake that we now see as misandry and oikophobia. And misandry and oikophobia in this big, massive layer cake that now is considered progressive. That you need to hate men and you need to hate your own people, and that's considered progressive. It's not. There's nothing progressive about it. It's just oikophobic and misandric.
Oh shit! Sorry, guys.
Oh no!
So mute. You should mute. I'm gonna wrap it up here, anyways.
Okay.
So hopefully Anna doesn't die. I got some super chats and a Rumble rant that I'm going to read. That's why I put Rumble chat on the screen so I wouldn't forget. So I got a Rumble rant from NovaFan21 who gives us $1 and says, I've been noticing some of the exchanges on Twitter. It's sad that they only worry about how we treat boys, but only when the looming threat of these boys harming girls is the result. Yeah, I've seen that too. A lot of concern trolling. When it looks like some men, and probably a very small percentage, might lash out, all of a sudden we have to do something about it because they might hurt women. So instead of dealing with it as a problem on its own, it has to be linked to, well, what are the consequences for women? Okay, now we'll address it. Anyway, thank you for that. And I got a super chat from Albert Nader Retro for $5 Canadian. He says, this is my last comment on Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate has said on video that depression is BS and that Robin Williams deleted himself due to therapy. Okay, all I will say is that therapy is not really engineered towards men's needs, so that might not be that far off. That's all I'll say about that. So, because we've looked at the American Psychological Association's guidelines. I have some cause to believe that it's possible that those guidelines are not only followed in the U.S., but either those guidelines specifically or something very similar is being followed everywhere else in the West. So I don't think that's completely, unbelievable to say. But maybe it's because it was said by somebody that you dislike. And then TV Dinner Master Chef says base for $2. No, I'm sorry, £2. My bad. Base is another name for methamphetamines. Link? I don't know. You mean like a base head?
It's any insufflatable drug that you chemically convert into a smokable drug is called base.
So it's a base. for something
Yeah,
else,
yeah,
like in
exactly.
chemistry.
I don't know that. I didn't say that. It doesn't matter.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm just speculating, like, you know. But anyway, all right. So hopefully Hannah's okay, but we are gonna wrap the show up here because we've gone over a little bit. So right now I'm gonna upload this recording. Let me end it here. At least not the show, but the recording I'm making. So I'm gonna upload this recording to Riverside, and we're gonna put it through the paces and see what clips we get, and then like maybe we'll just sort of play around with it. It's a new tool. We're trying to like use more tools to help us like reach more people. So anyway, if you want to join us for that, you have to become a badger. Go to feedthebadger.com. $5 a month will get you into the Discord. You'll be able to watch the video. We'll play the clips and let people check it out. Yeah, hopefully, and then if you give it higher levels, you can be a part of the conversation in real time with us. You'll be able to speak to us, and I'm sure that's extra exciting for people like Mike or Hannah. So please consider doing that. And yeah, well, hopefully we'll see you all there. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. You'll find links to all of the sources in the description of this video. And please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.